It always feels like there is so much shit to do, so many responsibilities, and that's not even counting the things that you want to do as projects, as passions. Everybody in this world, whether it's friends or family, coworkers, bosses, they all have like this expectation of things for you to do. And most of the time, they're mild. A lot of times, people ask you to act a certain way, whether they use their words to ask you to do this or not. When they react to certain things that you do, then that tells you I should do this or I shouldn't do that because it makes so and so upset. It makes so and so happy, and I want so and so to be happy and not upset. So I'm going to act this way. And this is the way that we kind of define ourselves over time. You know, you are not whatever your name is. That name was given to you. You never got a choice in that name. Since you were a baby, you've been conditioned. Don't do this. Do this. This is right. Don't say those words. Say these words. Don't treat this person like that. Treat them like that. There's always been input. The way that we define ourselves is based on other people around us. Some people use their title at work. Some people get really hung up on the fact that oh, well, I'm a CEO. I'm a manager, whatever. I don't know who's getting excited about being a manager, but there are people who do. I remember being 17, however old I was, getting promoted to manager at Five Guys and thinking that I was the shit, even though I was only making $1 more an hour than everybody else. So we all get hung up on our definitions. For some people, it's their title at work. For some people, it's what their partner looks like or does. If you're a guy and you get a hot girlfriend, bam, you might be the guy with the hot girlfriend. In your mind, that's kind of how you see yourself when you go out in public. You're oh, are other people looking at her? Do people think that I'm cool because I have a hot girlfriend? Or maybe you're the girl that got a guy that's pretty wealthy and kind of fun and still young, and wondering are all these girls kind of judging me for this? And we're constantly defining ourselves by the relationships with others. If you are in a social group, there's a clear hierarchy. Sometimes you might be the last person to get invited to things, or you notice that certain friends are hanging out and they're doing something on their own, and you're oh wait, I thought we were all part of the same friend group. Why didn't I get an invite to this? And you get these subtle messages that you aren't as much of part of the friend group as you might have thought you were. Or maybe you're the person in the friend group that's kind of making those decisions and saying, I don't know if we should invite so and so. And then you start to realize, if other people go along, hey, you have some sway in this friend group. You can kind of tell people what to do. And all these things go into our image of ourselves. The house that we live in, the car that we drive, the clothes that we wear, all those material things as well. And so you have to start thinking, what are we then, if not the sum of all of those things? And how could you know what you are unless you strip all of those things away? Even the language that we speak and we think in is something that we inherited from generations and generations of people that came before us. Because the fact that different languages syntax works differently means that other people with other languages think in different ways. So I forgot what the name of this effect is, but basically if in English we order verb, noun, conjugation, all this kind of stuff, I'm not into grammar or linguistics or anything like that, so I don't know what I'm talking about here other than surface level. We order our words in a certain way when we describe something, and then someone who speaks Spanish orders them in a different way and has more gendered terms for words. And someone who speaks Chinese is a completely different fucking way. They read from left to right. Oh wait, we read left to right. They read right to left. And so all of these different nuances, even in the language that we have, affects the way that we think and our own thoughts. This is where we start to get into who are you really as a person. Our own thoughts, most of the time, are automatic. How often are you actually intentionally thinking about whatever it is you're thinking about, versus going from having a conversation with someone to then using your phone, to then maybe eating something, to then maybe doing a chore, and all of these things in between? How much of the space while you're moving from thing to thing is actually conscious. Because I know for myself, I've, been getting off of video games, right? And then walk downstairs and be like, oh, there's the kitchen. I'm going to eat something because I've got nothing else going. It's not like I'm thinking this. I'm thinking this posthumously, even though nobody died. Go down into the kitchen, and because I'm not doing anything, I'll just go for some food. Start munching. Well, I'm munching right now and nothing's going on. I'm going to pull out my phone and start looking at my phone. And little by little, we go through our lives without even consciously thinking. We're just kind of letting these impulses guide us, right? And then even someone who's in their head all the time, maybe you know someone, or maybe you are this person that you sit down and you're quiet, and people go, oh, you're so quiet, when in reality that person has so many thoughts going through their head, chatter, 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 chatter. And so many people have anxiety right now, and the anxiety comes from all of these constant thoughts about what about World War III? What about global warming? What about solar flares and the impact on all this kind of shit that could be happening? And that those thoughts are constantly going, and driving this fear within us. And it kind of paralyzes us to the outside world. And you might think oh, well, you think too much. But are you thinking, or are you being thought at? Maybe there's a better way to say this. Are you thinking those thoughts, or are those thoughts happening and you're going with them, right? Because your brain never shuts off. Even when you're asleep, you're dreaming. You're thinking about things on a subconscious emotional level. But your brain is constantly going. This is what meditation is all about. Meditation is learning how to quiet the mind, or how to disconnect yourself from the mind. Because your brain is an organ just like your heart. Your heart beats. You don't have to ask for it to beat. You don't have to think about it beating. Same thing with your lungs. It's probably, your brain is more like your lungs. You'll breathe, and you won't even realize that you're breathing until the moment you think about the fact that you're breathing. Then all of a sudden you gotta breathe consciously, right? The same thing happens with your mind. We're constantly thinking. And it isn't until we go, I gotta sit down and focus, I gotta pay attention to this homework and figure out this problem, that we have to get ourselves to focus, right? Because the focus is the ability to stop that constant stream of thoughts and take control of your thoughts. Because if you don't take control of your thoughts, it's just bam, 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 constantly going off in your brain. And so if we're defined by our social relationships with other people, we're defined by the things that we own, we're defined by the thoughts that we have, so many things come into who we are as people, right? And I think so often we think about, well, me as a person, I am my name. I'm Joe. Oh, but then wait, that name was given to you. What does that even mean? That's just something you call yourself so other people know that we're referring to you when we talk about you, or that you're referring to yourself. And okay, well, then I'm me. I'm this. It's well, that's just your body, right? Because yeah, your body is one thing, but what about the fact that you are someone's brother, you're someone's son, you're someone's sister, whatever. All of these relationships that you have, you also mean things to other people. You're more than just a bag of meat, right? You have thoughts, and you could put those thoughts out into the world, and in a way you're kind of shaping the world with the things that you say and the things that you do. That's more than just your meat, right? It's more than... Well, yeah, obviously. Okay, so then you're not your name, you're not your body. In a way, you are all of these things that we talked about. You are everything. And that's where things get weird. Because if you think about, what is a society but a collection of people? All these words that we're using, all these things that we're owning or partaking in, and all these relationships that we're having are all made and maintained by other people. And so you stop seeing, the moment you can see beyond the fact that, well, I can only see what I see and hear what I hear and taste what I taste and smell what I smell. So then that must mean that I am this thing, right? Because all of that is up here. Your nose, your mouth, your eyes, your ears are all in this part of your body. So it's really easy to think that you are your brain, because that's where it's all held. That's where all of your senses, or at least the majority of them, are coming in. All the ones that feel most important. But the moment you take a second to realize, well, I'm so much more than just what's housed in this head. I am the impact I have on other people, the impact I have on the world, the impact I have on everything around me, and everybody else is also that. All of these things that like I'm defining myself by in some way or another are the result of other people doing the same thing. And so if we're constantly living off of each other, and like the way we're defining each other is based off of each other, and all of this input is just coming from other people who are taking that input from other people, it's like, where is all of this coming from? And we need to stop thinking in the sense that we are individuals, and we need to start thinking as a fucking society if we're going to start getting anywhere in life. Because as of right now, I don't know if you guys have looked out of your window, but things are pretty fucked. And things are fucked because we've gotten this such like a atomized mindset where everybody's like, I'm out for myself and I got to take care of myself, and it's me, me, me. Whether you're trying to get rich or you're trying to get laid or you're trying to fucking build something really cool, trying to get recognition as an artist, whatever it is, like a lot of us are doing it because I want to be that person, but not realizing the reason you are the person you are is because everybody else was the person that they were and fed into you in some way or another. Even the people on the other side of the world, like we define ourselves by the fact that we aren't them. And they have these things that they do different, and we have these things that we do different, and we have some overlap, but like that's them and this is us. And like we should even be grateful for them, because then it shows us, well, like we define ourselves by our negatives. Like I'm not that, so I know that I'm not that. And as we chip away at these things that all the things we're not, we get to define ourselves a little bit more clearly, and that adds on to the things that we are. But the point really being is, think about all the people who are really fucking this world up. All of the ultra rich people, all of the politicians that bold-faced lie to us every day and then tell us a lie and expect us to believe it like we're all stupid. Think about the rich, and when I say like rich ultra elites, I'm not talking about Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates. Them too, they're puppets though. I'm talking about the people who have had money for like tens of generations, where the money, I'm sure if any of you guys are seeing this, you know what compounding interest is, right? So the long and short of it is, if you put money into the stock market or any kind of like thing that will make you more money over time, let's say you put $1,000 and you get like 10% yield per year, you get that 10%, so you get $1,100 at the end of the year, and you continue that to ride. Now your $1,100 turns into, oh fuck, I'm terrible at math. 10% would be 110, so now you get 1210 the next year, and then that like continues to add up. That's probably off, but whatever. The point being, like, you add up more and more of this money, and it gets a bigger sum to then accrue more over time, because now all of that money, that bigger pool, is earning more money on top of that. And so all of that compounds, and people show this example of like, well, if you start investing in your 20s, you could have X number of millions of dollars by your 60s, versus someone who started investing in their 30s and only has this many dollars in their 60s. And you see the power like that a 10-year difference can make, right? Think about 10 generations. There are some people who could trace their family line to like the fall of Rome. And I don't know who they are. Nobody knows who they are. Who knows if there's even that many of them or if it's even true. But the point is, there's generational wealth that has gotten so wealthy, it's completely disappeared off the face of the earth. And do you think that they're thinking about society, or are they thinking about their family name? Are they thinking about the things that they own? Do you think that they're really looking out for all of us? That's why we're so atomized and all for ourselves, is because that's been put on us. There was a time where we all realized that we impact the people around us. We impact the world around us. So maybe I shouldn't act like a fucking degenerate, because it's going to bring the rest of my village down. Maybe I shouldn't go and steal from another place, because those people are going to come back and not just fuck me up, they're going to fuck up the village too. But we're so atomized, we don't even know our neighbors. We don't know half the people in like a half-mile vicinity around us. And so who cares? Who gives a shit? You get to disappear into the crowd. You're never held accountable for anything. Same thing with those people up there at the top that are pulling the strings, because their value system has been imposed on all of us. all of the movies that we watch, all the media that we watch, that's constantly promoting this idea of like, use violence to solve problems, or it's better to keep your head down and stay out of trouble, or make as much money as you can and like be your own hero. Like, all this individualism is constantly being promulgated at us, and it's tearing society apart. We can't even agree on what the problems are. How are we ever going to fix them? Because we can't see past, this is what I think is right, and what you think is right is wrong, and not see that we're all in the same pot of water, and the heat is slowly cranking up, and our focus is on the wrong people completely. We need to think more like a society.